please take notes and get ready. I think he may, I told him to keep it around 45 minutes, but we'll see if he'll keep to that. And I'm ready, Randy. Thank you for your time for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh man.
I'll let you have the stage now. Thank you.
Cool. No, I'll send you some money, man. I'll Venmo you like $15 for that.
Okay.
That was a good intro. Yeah, me and Sean originally, I think I helped protest. We got the Tension conference to Memphis. I don't even think I made it to that conference, but we did something weird. Yeah,
we had our little campaign signs, and
I mean,
we didn't run around with our shirts off or anything like that, but we tried our best and we made it happen, man.
We did have some fun with that. So yeah, and yeah, so when I was a wayward geology student back in '92 and went to work for TVA. And so I was one of those guys, the workstation, ArcInfo, back when you had to type stuff. And yeah, I used ESRI products up until 2013 actively, or 2012, and then switched over to open source just because it works for me. It's fun. Yeah, so I don't, like after this, you don't have to go burn your Arc Pro licenses out in the parking lot. It would be funny if you did, but you don't have to. So I did this talk for Tenjic and I immediately apparently lost the presentation. So I had to rewrite it. And in rewriting it, I've got some different demos. And I want to show you the brand new QGIS that's coming out next week that is 3/26, and kind of go through that. So I've got like 10 or 12 slides, and then we're going to do demos. So hopefully the demo is going to run most of the time. You guys can, I'll be babbling, waxing poetic during this, but and this will be talking about Tennessee's LIDAR program. I'm going to poke fun at them a little bit and do some stuff. So this should be fun. Let's see, can I start up a slideshow? Yeah. So yeah, as the introduction, told you, I run a company, North River Geographic Systems. And I know several of you, I was looking through that stuff, and hey to Canada, Bernie. I started running North River, I guess it was in 06 or 07, I was on the Tenjic board. I was TVA employee, decided it was time to kind of move on. And had been playing around with open source, but it was an ARC guy. I did everything in ARC. And, so slowly as the company progressed, ARC's an expensive package, and I found I could do stuff with open source a lot quicker and a lot cheaper, and it was kind of fun. It was like old school ArcInfo sort of. You had a community, you had people to talk to. I could email developers and ask questions. It was kind of fun. And out of that, I've got, I use QGIS, Grass, Goodle, or GDAL, Poodle, or PDAL, depending on how you want to pronounce it, PostGIS. I actually provide commercial support for QGIS and work with people. I've worked with Ed, who's in here. I don't know if Chad may or not, but Henry County 911, doing different QGIS things. And so I, do it commercially, do it for fun. I kind of interact with the community, answer questions, kind of watch what they're doing. I'd rather be canoeing, but I'm not, because it is kind of warm down here right now. So open source, it's not a new thing. For those of you who are, have used it, haven't used it, you may think it's something brand new. It's not anything new. 78, the MOS program. If you deal with the open source crowd for any length of time, you'll see that there's a lot of reference back to this program with the Soul Cats, the guy that wrote it, the Soul Cats Award. And actually, they just found the source code for the 78 version, and you can actually download and take a look at it, which is really cool. Grass came out in 82. So, Grass, 40 years-ish of development, still actively developed. They just released 8.2 last week. Proj 4, all this different, bits and pieces of software. QGIS made an appearance on the scene in 2006. So it's kind of new, 16 years old-ish. And as of next week, 3.26 will be out. And the biggie for QGIS was 2018 when 3.0 came out. They kind of rewrote it, made it 64-bit, new Python versions. I mean, it runs off Python. It's a fun piece of software, and I've gotten Sean using it. He's doing some DEM stuff with it. It works really, really well. So open source, not anything new. It's been around for a minute. Few people tend to use it. You may have heard of some of them, like Amazon or the U.S. Census. It's got a good foothold and everything. You're probably gonna see my dad come traipsing through here. I'm at my mom's house, by the way. My internet went out. I think the heat killed it or something killed it. So a lot of people use it. U.S. Fish and Wildlife, military, ESRI uses open source. They contribute to the development. They may not want you to know it, but you're using it. You're using the raster components. Goodle or GDAL are built into ArcPro and ArcMap. So, part of that's happening. U.S. Census, for those of you who did some of the census work, I think you got QGIS 3.8 Vine, I think, or Vine, came from the census to help you fill out some other information. A lot of people use it. Again, not anything new. There's a lot of people working with this, so it's pretty up to date. It's pretty good. And I just finished writing this not terribly long before this started. So when you download QGIS, you may end up going, I'm going to jump around a little bit. You may end up going to the website. From there you can download software. You can buy t-shirts. You can do a little bit of everything. And when you download it, you're not only getting this really cool desktop program, you're getting a bundle of tools, and you get some GRASS tools mixed in. You get bits and pieces of Sega if you're on Windows. I'm currently running Linux because, like with open source, it doesn't matter what software I'm running or what operating system. So I kind of run a little bit of everything, and I'm happy. There's a lot of plugins that run into QGIS. There's plugins for vector editing, for LIDAR. You pretty much name it, and there's some kind of itch that is getting scratched in here from one of the developers. And amazingly enough, it's pretty stable. It does crash. I will probably crash QGIS while we're doing this because I'm running a beta copy, the master copy of it as I'm playing around with the demos. And the reason I'm doing that, there's some brand new stuff I wanted to show you that no one's really seen. There's been some demonstration of it on YouTube. The last Friday of every month is like a Hack Friday, and they do YouTube videos and other things. And this one, I think this one was demoed at the last Hack Friday. Some of the stuff I'm going to show you here. So how does QGIS work? I get a lot of comments at conferences. You go to a conference and people come up and go like, hey, I would run this, but those hackers, they're going to hack your software. So we don't want to run, we want to run stuff commercially. We don't want to run open source. And if you took a look at the QGIS organization, you'd find that there's nothing anywhere near like that occurring. They're very well organized, and it's pretty fascinating to kind of watch them work. They have a chair, they have a board, they have a project steering committee. They have voting members. You can donate money to them. They run this organization off about $250,000 US a year, somewhere in that range. 300,000 is what it takes to kind of churn through this. So they pay some developers. Developers have to be picked. They ask to become part of the project. They have to become vetted. It's a pretty tight group. You just can't get into just randomly making changes to software. They have to be vetted. They have to be, recognized by the community. It's a very active, very nice group of people. So if you ever get involved in it, it's a super nice group of people working around. And, going back earlier, where I said you get a bundle of software with QGIS. One of those bundles again, looking at the development model and how this stuff works, Goodle is one of the underpinnings, which underpins, some of the ESRI products, some of the other stuff. And what ends up happening, there's this really cool dude, Evan, really cool guy, Evan. And as of probably not this next release, but the release after that, you'll be able to make file-based geodatabases in QGIS, which is kind of weird. So on June 10th, Evan announced that he had finished back engineering the file geodatabase, and it's now the open file GDB driver. So QGIS will be able to create, edit, and work with ESRI file-based geodatabases. ESRI had provided kind of an open binary development kit that was kind of, I took it as difficult to work with. I didn't really work with it, but from looking at some of the developers. So because this work was done and sponsored by other people, QGIS reaps the benefits. So that's going to be pretty cool. So if you're on a Mac, whatever, you too will be cranking out ESRI file-based geodatabases. QGIS is released every 4 months. You get a bleeding edge release, which is what I'm going to show you. I call it bleeding edge. It's not as stable. And then there's a 1-year stable release that happens. In the 1-year release, it's supported for 1 year. So if you're in government, if you're doing, some kind of, in education, in government, wherever, the 1-year release works great. And you don't have to update it all the time. You get four updates a year. It's really, really great. But we're going to be doing with the bleeding edge release for this one. So if you compare QGIS with other stuff, with ArcPro or with ESRI stuff, there's a lot of overlap. One of the developers in Isle said there's like 80% overlap with ArcMap, ArcPro. There's 20% that Arc does really, really well. There's 20% that QGIS does really, really well. In between, you get mobile, cartography, editing, symbology, Python, all the stuff you're used to, both pieces of software share. So what does it do when you download it? You're going to get, ability to convert 50-something vector data formats, raster formats. You can build processing models. You can work with Python. You can make maps. It does a little bit of everything. And the thing we're going to talk about towards the end of this is the LIDAR portion. There's now a 3D viewing portion of this built in. You can view vector data, LIDAR files, other things. When I originally did this, I used Chattanooga data. And in talking to Sean, Sean just got new 2019 data from Tennessee. I think it's 2022, somewhere. It's new. It's within 3 years. And he got a base DEM and some point clouds. And I was looking around at that and I thought, man, why don't we use that for the demo? Let's look at Indian mountains. So we're going to do a little bit of archaeology, messing around with the Pinson. I guess it's Pinson State Park or the Pinson Indian Mounds out in West Tennessee, is what we're going to look at. The important bit to this whole thing, and the reason this is going to work, there's this really cool piece of software called Poodle or PDAL, and it is a point data abstraction library. It's a command line tool, and Poodle will process LIDAR. You can feed LIDAR into it. You can reproject. You can, convert formats. You can weed it out. You can decimate it. You can pull out sections. You can say, give me everything between 400 and 500 feet. It'll do that. It's a really powerful command line tool. But it's a command line tool. It's kind of, you got to know your type stuff out. And what happened, again, because QGIS is this big kind of a nonprofit board thing, they run a lot of crowdfunding campaigns. And the first one happened in 2020, and they wanted to take Poodle, pull it into the mix. And pulling that in allowed them to look at point cloud data. They could view it, you could read it, could do things with it. The second crowdfunding campaign happened, and they wanted to do a little bit more. And so that one ran, I think they collected something like 60, 70, 80,000 US dollars. And now that's doing, so as of right now, you can view, symbolize, and do some 3D analysis, and probably the next release, you'll be able to actually extract, pull, and do some other work. So now we're going to use Tennessee data. As I said earlier, we're going to look at the Pinson Indian Mounds. And the Tennessee has a LIDAR project that's really, really robust. You get base elevation data, you get contours, you get building footprints, you get point cloud data. It's all free. It's all freely available. You just go up to the Tennessee website and download it and use it. Now, I'm going to rant for you, Martin. When you go to the Tennessee website, it directs you to the LAS tiles. And as you go up and look at it, it's all on Google Drive. You go up there, and I got really excited. I'm like, holy crap, it's LAS tiles. This is going to be awesome. And I go in to look at the LAS tiles, and it's all ZLAS format, which is an ESRI only format, which doesn't do us any good for this demo. Anyway, so I'm sitting here looking at this going, now I got to convert it. I've got to do something with it. I don't really want to do that. So I'm going to go to the USGS website. The USGS has a really good LIDAR Explorer piece of software, and you go to it, you can outline an area, download it, and pull down whatever you want in LAZ or LAS format. You don't have to worry so much with conversion. You don't have to do anything else. You just download it and you're done. So I was going to demo that, but I don't really want to. I'm worried I want to demo too much and screw something up. So look up USGS LIDAR Explorer, go take a look at it. If you're in Tennessee, this makes it a whole lot easier. You can go outline an area and download. If this area wasn't outlined in green, as you can see from the screenshot, you would see that we're outlining the Pinson Indian Mounds. And so what I did was go up and grab everything dealing with Pinson Indian Mounds. So demo time, it's 4:26. It gives me 20 something minutes to look at this. We're going to look at DEM data. We're going to generate contours. I'm going to run through just some of the basics of how QGIS works, and we're going to pull in point clouds and take a look at this. So here we go. Let's see if this is going to work. Let me lower this out of the way. QGIS. So I'm going to start QGIS from scratch. And you're going to see this is the development version. I would not suggest running development. Wait till next week. This will be ready for prime time next week. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to go look at some of the files. And I'm going to look at the base DEM. So in Tennessee, one of the things you get is the base DEM, which is just what we would typically call the last return. It's the bare earth elevation model. And this is out in West Tennessee. It's southeast of Jackson. I think it's in Madison County, I believe. So this is just an elevation model. I can go in and symbolize it. As you can see, it's just black and white, nothing great, but there are some little weird things going on here, things to look at. And let's actually colorize it a little bit. Let's go in and change the symbology to something more exciting. Color ramp. So not terribly, not too bad. Like I said, just bare earth, symbolize it. What if I want to look at the hillshade? So here's the hillshade for the DEM. I'm going to go ahead and run that. And here we are. So here's the hillshade. So, and these are all very basic command. I mean, these are all just command line tools that you get, or processing tools you get with QGIS. This will be equivalent to running like an ARC info version of ArcMap, or I guess Pro with Spatial Analyst installed, or maybe some of the Spatial Analyst tools. So these are the Pinson Indian Mounds. And as I'm now starting to zoom in, you can see where the mounds are built in this state park. You can go visit them. I actually want to go visit them now. So I think the next time I go out to West Tennessee, I'm going to go check out the Indian mounds. So pretty cool. I mean, you know, free data, free elevation data, and you can see archaeological sites built in. So I am going to do just a little bit of cartographic, you know, viewing of this. And let's take a look at there. So what I'm going to do is add those two data layers together. So we're getting the DEM overlaying the hillshade, sticks out a little bit more, a little bit nicer, a little bit cooler. Again, this is all just base data from, you know, the LIDAR stuff. So let's look at contours. So I can run contours of the base elevation data. And I want to go ahead and contour the DM. I think in Tennessee, we can run this as 2-foot contours. I'm gonna go ahead and run that. And it runs really, really quick. Again, free data, free piece of software, and we're having some fun with it. So I now have contours. I'm going to change the symbology of this just a little bit. And here we go. So we've got contours now of the Indian mounds. And you see some things are starting to stick out more. We have an Indian mound here, probably one here. I was trying to download some GIS data of this before the demo, and I couldn't really find any that was freely available. Found a few maps and a few other things, but you know, using all the tools now, you can see Indian mounds are sticking out more and more. One large one here, other stuff here. Again, you know, all this free data, base elevation data. Now with 326, the new version coming out, I'm going to turn off the contours. The big new thing that happened with the software now is the introduction of a profile tool. So I can take and zoom into an area such as this, run a profile across, and I want to look at this at the elevation, and we'll see if this works. Come on, beta software. It's really, really cool when you're running something beta because you never know exactly what's going to happen, what is and isn't going to work. So let's turn this off and on. Let's go with fill below. Okay, sweet. That isn't exactly working, but that's fine. Let's change. Let's take this off. Come on, display. Well, hey, here we go. Well, maybe not. Let's take the contours off. So they did add this profile tool in, and if I can get this to work, I just did an update this morning. So let's pull this off. Let's pull this off. And let's drag and drop this in. And one more time, let's see if I can get this to work. Again, this is why I say never run beta software, because you never know exactly what's going to happen. So let's draw another line across here. Here we go. So the profile tool. And sorry that took a little bit, but you can see here the elevation running from the base up, you can get the hill, you know, this mound is approximately, let's see, right at like 510 feet. So you've got probably 70 feet, 60 feet of elevation on this. If I drew another profile here, you can see the profile of this one. So now we're getting we've got a profile tool built into QGIS to go and take a look at surface elevations, which is pretty slick. Again, if I want to draw a profile around across this one, because there's a circular embankment or something going on here. And as you see, as I'm moving around the profile, you'll notice there's a small black dot moving around the top of here. So you can see the mound appearing here. So that's pretty cool. Now, what if we did this in 3D? So I'm going to open this up. There is a 3D window now built into QGIS. And I'm going to take a look at this. I want to set up. And I want to do this at a vertical scale of 2. And let's see how this works. You know, again, West Tennessee is pretty flat, but you can at least start to get the idea of, you know, the elevation data here being, you know, being able to view this in 3D and take a look at it is pretty nice. And if I went in and started, again, going back to some of the stuff I just did, if I run a hill shade of the DEM, probably should have done this in a little bit different order. You can now see the hill shade overlaying the DEM, and again, pretty slick, pretty cool, and built in with using the profile tools, taking a look at this. It's a pretty interesting, it's a really powerful way to take a look at your data. But we were going to talk about point cloud data. And I mean, and there's other tools too. Now I'm sitting here thinking about this. With your elevation data, you've got slopes, you've got terrain modeling. There's a lot of processing tools. Again, for those of you in Tennessee, or just those of you dealing with any kind of elevation data or LIDAR data, you can take and, do all kinds of weird and wacky stuff with this, looking at slope maps, looking at all this stuff. But point clouds, hey, and I just killed QGIS, which is fine because we're going to segue to the next part, point clouds. So the last 2 crowdfunding campaigns have dealt with point cloud data, and it has dealt with these LAZ files, not ZLAS, but LAZ. So what I did was download a LAZ file for the Indian Mounds. And when you drop it into QGIS, the first thing it does is it looks at the classification of the data. And in this case, we've got ground, unclassified, low point, and reserved. And you can kind of see the overlap between scan lines as they're doing it. Again, if we did nothing else but go into the properties and symbolize the intensity, let's do ramp intensity. So intensity is a reflectant. I don't deal with a lot with LIDAR. I don't work with it a ton, but usually I think intensity runs like 0 to 255. So we're going to cut this down. And the Tennessee data is pretty raw. It is classified, but they do tend to leave a lot of the miscellaneous data points in there. So you do get errors when you start looking at it, or stray points. So I'm going to take a look at the intensity image. And it kind of looks like a photograph, sort of like an aerial photo. And again, this is, if I zoom in and take a look, you can start seeing individual points for the Indian Mounds. If I wanted to, Tennessee publishes their data through a REST server, through ARC server. I can connect to the imagery and just for fun, take a look at base maps, imagery. the Tennessee Ortho Index. So if I pull all that in, that's going to give me an idea of what I'm looking at. So this is probably, I'm guessing from this must be their show and tell Indian mound. There's parking lots. There's this mound right here. If I turn that off, you're going to see, that data. So you can at least start viewing intensity. You can at least start looking at classification of your point files. But what if you want to do it in 3D? So I'm going to start a new 3D map view. Let's see how far this gets. If it does not blow up on us, I don't want the imagery in here, but I do want to look at the 3D view. I want to classify it by ramp. I want to classify it by elevation. And I'm going to invert this. And if you notice, again, just messing around with symbols, I know I'm jumping through a lot. They have an elevation assigned to this point cloud from 363 feet, which is probably the base elevation, to 2,900 feet, which I can guarantee you there's not a 2,900 foot mountain in West Tennessee. So let's just cut this down to like 700. And let's take a look at it. You can start to see some point data pulling in here. You should be able to see it a little bit in 3D. I want to enhance this. Let's turn off shadows. And here we've got point cloud data. Pulled into the 3D viewer. So if you get point cloud data, now this doesn't necessarily have to be, I'm using LIDAR data. What if this was drone data? Your drone software, I don't know, for those of you using drones, if you're using drone to map or you're using something, if you're producing an LAS file or some type of classified point data, you can drop this in and view it in 3D and take a look at it. Is it as nice as Probably Pro? Probably not, but for free, it's pretty freaking awesome. And you can take a look at, Indian mounts. Now, the nice thing is I can start stacking this. So if I want to go back, drop in the elevation data, I want to go back to here, configure this to show me elevation data, the DEM. We can start dragging, dropping everything in here. So if I wanted to go look at, for instance, this Indian mound here, you can see we've got trees on it. You can see the point clouds kind of hovering above it, but you can at least see into it now and see the Indian mound itself with nothing, really between you and it. If I go in and again, let's see how much of this I can stack together. I want to view the elevation profile. Come on, this is going to be the piece de resistance if this works. I again want to look at that. I want to look at the elevation profile for here to make it an area. Oh boy, let's see if this works. I'm now going to draw a line from here to here. Come on, work, work, work. Let's turn this on. Now let me change the symbology. The great thing with QGIS, you can symbolize the snot out of everything if you want to. I shouldn't have said snot on a Zoom call, but you can really specialize. So now you can see the Indian mound here and the trees. These are LIDAR points that are hitting the vegetation coming up. So if you get multiple years of LIDAR, which Sean has now out in West Tennessee, you can actually look at tree growth through this transect and just see how much did the trees grow. I was going to grab 2012 data, but I didn't feel as you know, I really felt like I was probably going to blow this up more than I wanted to. So again, QGIS, we're looking at 3D point cloud data here. We're looking at intensity image here. And then we've got this really nice transect tool that's going to let us look at points and base DEM. And so by next year, or actually the next crowdfunding campaign they do is going to be, you're going to be able to extract data layers. So you can go pull your point cloud and say, okay, give me everything between 350 and 550 and do a slice. You should be able to. I think that's what they're planning on doing. So it's going to be introducing some analysis capabilities into QGIS, which is pretty cool for 320. You know, again, this is beta software. This is 325, but it will be out next week. These are the brand new tools that they're going to give you for viewing point cloud data. And it's pretty slick. It will also, and I didn't do this because I didn't feel, I was scared it was going to blow up. You know, I mentioned earlier going out to the USGS to grab the point cloud data. You can connect straight to their service, and it's an AWS library file or something sitting out in the Amazon cloud. You could connect directly to it, not have to go through the USGS website and just pull it down through the tool they provide here. But again, pretty cool. That is kind of it. Again, looking at Indian Mounds in West Tennessee, this could very easily have been downtown Chattanooga or anything else. It's pretty slick. It's pretty powerful, you know, and the ability to just view LIDAR data now, where I guess with Pro, you need an extension. I haven't used Pro enough to know. Maybe Pro views LAZ or LAS natively, but again, free piece of software. You can view your point data and start making some measurements here. And they've been trying to reconfigure this viewer window. I think there's been a little bit of a back and forth on how they want that to work, but it's pretty cool. So I was trying to find another Indian mound. I think there's one right here. That may be the one I've been looking at. Yeah, it is the one I've been looking at. And of course, I do all this and say, you know, I guess assume everybody knows what an Indian mound is. It's usually burial, I believe, by the local inhabitants. So again, zooming into here, another Indian mound. You can, whoa, you can at least see the trees. Zoom out on that. I think I turned something off. Again, beta software. I've been getting updates almost every day for QGIS as they roll towards this release next week. So, and with that, I think that's about everything. I know that was kind of quick, maybe a little bit noisy on this end, but questions, thoughts, angst, anger, worry. Oh my God, can I actually use QGIS? Yes, you can.
Randy, I have a question.
Yeah.
You said that we were going to have the capability of creating a file geodatabase.
Yeah.
About when is that going to come out? Because the state's having issues with the geo packages now.
I don't know exactly when. I mean, that was just announced. Literally June 10th. So 5 days ago, they just announced this. So I'm guessing it's going to be.
It's not out yet?
No. They just finished the coding on it. So June 10th, maybe by 328. I would assume this would probably be 328. I doubt it's going to make it into 326, but
all right.
Yeah, I mean, just another piece of the tool, another piece of the puzzle that you can get with this. So it's pretty slick. And again, if you guys want to mess around with this, if you get just completely stuck, give me a call, give me a shout. really not a terrible thing to do. But if you're dealing with a lot of drone stuff and you're dealing with a lot of, point cloud data, this is really cool, because that's always been a struggle point for me. If you have clients pop up and go like, hey, we've got point cloud data, and it's always been, well, I'm going to kind of struggle a little bit. Grass has 3D. Grass is a little bit tough to use at times, especially in the 3D realm. This kind of brings it home and makes it easy, for everybody to use and to work with a little bit of, effort, but not super terrible, not too bad, not too shabby. So how was that? Was that at least halfway decent? I hope it was a decent view of how point cloud data is going to work in QGIS. And, again, you got transect tools to be able to go in and look at this stuff, which to me is just amazing, because I don't think we've ever really had a good transect tool to look at elevation data. There's been a few clunky things that have been written, but nothing to the extent that I can just draw a transect and then start seeing points and surface elevation pulled in, which is like absolutely dumbfounding, especially hopefully for my forestry clients. I mean, we got a lot of LIDAR data of pine plantation, and I think it would be cool to kind of look at that, in regards to all the other stuff that they deal with. So yeah, and there you go. And I think there's another way also to kind of fold this into a triangular integrated network, but I didn't get that far in the tutorials before the demo. Of course, I was rushing over here to my parents' house because my internet went off half a mile down the road. So anyway.
We have a question about.
Okay.
Classification tools. I wonder what that means.
Hold on, so let me turn my volume up. What was the question?
What about classification tools in QGIS?
Classification tools? They don't have classification built in yet. My guess is that's where they're going to be headed. There is one commercial tool called LAZ tools, which Martin Eisenberg, the guy I kind of gave a shout out to in the middle of that. He has a commercial product to do classification. There's another plugin also called White Box Tools to do classification. And with PDAL, with the command line tools, you can do some classification work. The kicker is going to be translating those tools into, a GUI environment to where you can actually start actively using that stuff. But there are some tools around. White Box Tools is one plugin, and I expect, again, watching the development go on, because this isn't a commercial endeavor. This is a community style event. They're eventually going to get there. Maybe we can do a crowdfunding campaign and say, hey, help us classify, help us do classification. But anywho, how was that?
That was really cool.
Yeah, the person with the question says thanks.
Oh, no problem.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions? All right. Well, Randy, thank you so much. That was awesome.
Oh, no problem,
it was very
man.
impressive. And for all y'all, we are recording this, as you probably noticed. We're going to post this to Randy, if this is okay with you. We're going to post this to our YouTube channel. And once we get that up there, it should be by the end of this week. We'll send everybody a link. Everybody that's in this session, as well as everybody that registered. So again, that just look for that email, and thank you again, Randy. I'm gonna let you all get
Oh.
back to work.
Cool. Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. And thanks everybody for showing up, and have a great day.
Cool.
All right. Bye.
Bye.